All right, welcome to another episode of Serious Though. I'm your host, Ron. Just wanted to say thank you everyone for listening and downloading those episodes. Really appreciate that. Today we're going to do something a little different as we always do here at Serious Though. We're going to make you laugh and make you say, Serious Though. Today we're going to talk about change. What is it? Like sometimes you do change in your life and do things differently. And people may say, well, you're not the same person I knew before. So what is that? And why do people say that? So let's get right into it. So the actual definition for change is make someone or something different, alter or modify. So if you really think about your life, our goals in life are to be different. But sometimes we do change and people may not understand why we done our change. And sometimes we don't understand why we done our change. So my job here today is what we're going to do is talk about how you make some changes, how you sustain those changes, and give you some examples, and then we can go from there. So how do you make changes, and why do you make changes? I'll give you an example. My biggest change that I had was weight loss. You know, I was almost 300 pounds, and I just got tired of it. But it takes some kind of breaking point. My breaking point one day, I was, going to Dillard's to go get my pants. At the time, I was about to go from a 42 waistband up to a 44, but I always got extended waistband, so it can extend. Serious though. And when I went in the store, they knew me in the store because I was rapidly getting bigger. Because of my 2 4-count Chick-fil-A meals, large strawberry shake, large fry, and a cookie. And eat that in like 5 minutes and then get back to work. So when I was in Dillard's, they came up to me and my guy was like, yo, what'd you get today? I said, I gotta get some new khakis. He was like, okay, let me show you. I said, I know where they at. So, went over there, got my khakis and stuff like that. Made sure he got credit because, he always looked out for me. But at the same time, I was about to go get my daily routine, what I just told you, that 2 4-count chicken nuggets from Chick-fil-A, the large shake, large fry, and a cookie. Reason why I said, again, you got to paint that picture. And I'm in the driveway, drive-through getting that meal. And I noticed at that moment in time that I had to stop. That was the moment in time I had to stop. So I got the meal, parked, pulled over, ate the meal. And while I was eating the meal, I was just thinking, and I was on high blood pressure medicine, high cholesterol medicine. Yeah, true that. I really was. And I said, you know what? I got to do something different. And I need to do it right away. So at that time, I went home, told my wife what I was doing. And I'm like most people. Sometimes you say you're going to do something and you start it and then you just like stop it. Or either you start it, you do it, and then something happens and you stop or you just stop altogether just because it's just not the right thing, because when you change your diet, you're going to get headaches. You're going to get mood swings. You're going to be irritable. You're going to be hangry, wherever you want to call it. And I had all those things. And so I did, mess up a couple times. But then eventually I set that agenda for change. I said, look, I'm just going to stop eating, red meat. Make it simple. Okay. I did that. And then I tried to stop, some other things as well. I was trying to stop chicken and fish and all that at the same time. And one day I was selling a lady a phone one day. And then this lady was an older lady. Had to be in her 70s or 80s, but she was fit as a fiddle. And I said to her, ma'am, excuse me, but how did you get to be like this? How did you get your weight and your muscle mass and all that stuff? And she was like, baby, don't make it a job. When she said, don't make it a job, at first I was like, what? Don't make it a job. And she said, well, whatever you're doing or whatever you stop trying to do, if it becomes something that is like a job, stop doing it that way. And so what I did was, I said, okay. So I cut the red meat out, and then I went to the chicken, and a few months later I went to the fish. A few months later, I cut the pork out before that, but I cut the pork out as well, and I noticed a difference. I noticed a big difference. First of all, I had those headaches, but then second of all, my inflammation in my knees started to subside. Like I still had a little bit of inflammation, but it wasn't as bad as before. I did also increase my water intake. Remember, this podcast is not a doctor. I am not a medical practicing person. I am not a nurse. I'm just someone that's saying, serious though, this is what you got to do. And so when I did all those things, it managed to make me feel better. Like over time, I felt accomplished. I took pictures and stuff like that. And that was the main thing that helped me to keep me going and motivated me to keep me going because I've seen results. So I keep that in mind, that when you're looking for change, sometimes you do got to see results, and it could be small ones. And so when I seen those results, I was like, yo, I'm going to keep going with this. And eventually I got down from that 44 I just bust into. I went back down to like a 42-40. I was teetering between, but elastic waistband on those Dockers or whatever you want to call, khakis or whatever. And it started working. So then next thing I implemented was some exercise. Now, if you hear me talking, I didn't exercise right away because I couldn't. I tried. I was trying to exercise and eat right. And I was like, man, I kept relapsing. You know what I'm saying? Serious though. And I realized, okay, I'm going to do a little bit of exercise. And I got myself to a certain point where I could run like 2 to 3 miles on a treadmill, without feeling really bad. And then once I started doing that, I tried to do, a little bit of push-ups and stuff like that. But then I said, you know what? I'm feeling froggy. I said, I'm going to try something totally out of this world. Change again, some new change. I joined CrossFit. Yeah, I was like, CrossFit. Yeah. CrossFit is no joke, okay? But the results are amazing, but it's intense. And I did the CrossFit for, I would say, about 6 months total. But it got me to a level of understanding of where I knew my discipline could go and how far to push myself, if that makes sense. If it don't, I don't know how else to explain it. So then once I did that CrossFit, I was able to work out on my own. And remember, I'm not trying to be Buffy. I'm not trying to be Diesel Bob or nothing like that. I'm just trying to be fit, trying to feel comfortable, be able to move around. So during the CrossFit, it probably dropped me down. I want to say I was probably getting down to like 250, 230, in that range. And then I went to the doctor. I should have did this first. I do recommend that you go to the doctor first, get your levels of where your vitamins are, where your, CBC count, all these other things. Go to the doctor, get those things done, because you'll have a baseline to start. I did it backwards. I didn't know. So I went and got my baseline of my vitamin levels and all, and I was deficient, like most of us, in vitamin D, and there were some other deficiencies. So I used that to start taking, multivitamins. And at the same time, I had apps that I were using to track my food. And once again, if it becomes too hectic, if it comes too crazy, don't make it a job. Have fun with it. It's something that you're doing for yourself. That's the change management that you got to remember. It's not for anyone else but yourself. So once I did all those things, I had the routine going. I started using, like the powder supplement, vegan supplement, like Garden of Life supplements, different brands. I don't recommend one particular brand. I do recommend that if you get something, make sure it's individually tested by another company, not the company that makes it. That way you can at least possibly see that you are getting the real ingredients. So I did those things. And once I got past understanding how to eat and eat less and eat better, at the time I was grilling a lot of food and stuff like that. And I definitely cut out dairy. I should backtrack on that. And I'm telling you this right off the top of my head. So that's why I was a little bit scatterbrained. But I think that this is the best way to explain something to somebody. So cutting dairy out was like my first thing. Because, you get those bubble guts, you get all that little craziness going on in your stomach and stuff like that. And you're like, oh man, ain't nothing else. But it's the cheese, because I love cheese. I used to put cheese on everything, basically. I used to have milk and cheese, all that stuff. And once I gave that up, cholesterol dropped. had to stop taking cholesterol medicine. And then also, too, the blood pressure went down, 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 down. So it was a correlation in that. But going to the doctor, the only thing the one doctor told me, and this was a gastrologist, was that the dairy was causing my stomach issues. And he said, just leave the dairy alone. But the rest of the doctors didn't ask me nothing about food. And you keep that in mind. Doctors are not trained in food. They always ask you what you're doing. You fill out paperwork about all kinds of other things, but it never says what you ate today or what are you eating. Because most of the foods that we eat, we can't even pronounce half the stuff that's in them. All right. And so that's a whole nother story. So once I got on that track, I just started doing a routine. I just started having fun with it. And I slowly started seeing the pounds come off. I seen my energy level go up. I was sleeping better because you're burning calories and stuff like that. So you're sleeping thoroughly through the night. You might want to give yourself a time for bed, but that's a whole nother story too. So just get sleep when you can. I do recommend getting as much as possible. And so all that change happened, but my personality changed as well too. Because you got to remember, food alters you. I'm not a scientist, but it does. If you think about some things you eat or moods you get into when you want to eat, you may get a little happy, or some stuff you'd be like, okay, I'm eating this, but it ain't all that, but okay, it could change your mood. So I did get in different moods. And so I had to understand that, and my family helped me understand that my personality was changing. At the same time, I was getting more conscious and more understanding of things. But it made me be more aware of life events and more conscious of people and understanding people, and even helping me with my sales when I was selling products and stuff like that in corporate America. So I say all that to say that change is not easy. Change takes dedication. Change takes motivation. And then you also got to reward yourself for the many results that you have. Like, even if it's a small thing, I don't care. If you're changing, putting down the toilet seat for your spouse, take that as a win. Serious though, because we as people, we get comfortable in the things that we do, and it's hard for us to rewind or do something different without wanting to do it, or someone asking us to do it, or someone nagging us to do it, or we had to do it for some reason out of our control. Like, those are out of control too, but like out of your control. So keep that in mind when you're trying to motivate or do something different, or you see someone that says, or you say to them, hey, you're different, you changed. But it's not for you why they changed. They changed for themselves. So serious though, just say, hey, I like your change. Let me know what you did. Because when you ask someone about something they accomplish, they're more apt to to just spread the word to you than you saying, oh man, you look different. Okay, all right, thank you, I look different. But if you say, hey, you're looking great. What have you done? What you been doing? I guarantee you, you'll get more out of that than just saying what we previously said. So this is another episode of Serious Though. I'm your host, Ron. Thank y'all for listening. Enjoy.